Welcome to the Photographer Show, where we talk to you, the everyday photographers in the photo focus community, about your love of photography and dig into some of the fun, nerdy stuff we all love about the art and craft of photography. My name is Scott Wyden-Kivowitz, and I'm joined by my co-host, Lori Novak. Again, of course. Hi, Lori.
Hello.
So for everybody who's watching live in the webinar or on YouTube, share in the chat where you are watching from and if you prefer natural light or artificial light for portraits. So today we are talking to Martika Gartman. Welcome to the Photographer Show, Martika. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am a Virginia native, and I practiced law for about 15 or 20 years before I started doing photography full time. And nice. I'm married and live outside of Chicago.
Nice, beautiful, windy, and right now cold Chicago.
Wintry and white.
For those joining us on the live webinar, please, you can ask us questions. You can ask Lori and I questions. You can ask Martika questions. There is a Q&A section where you can ask your questions. There's also the live chat, both in the webinar and on YouTube. So you can ask your questions there. You can talk with each other there. I do see that we have somebody from New Jersey. Hi, Vicky. I'm also from New Jersey. Where it's also very cold and windy today. So Martika, we're going to dive into some of your photos a little later on, but we like to get started with some questions for you. So the first question we ask every guest is, what was your first camera?
Oh my, that goes a long ways back. The first camera that I remember using was probably like a Brownie. And then I used 120s. My parents were in Germany for a while when they were first married. So I had some 120s, and then I had a little Instamatic that I bought, and then I progressed to 35 millimeters probably by the time I was in 8th grade. So in the 80s.
Nice.
SLR for a long time.
And what are you digital now, or are you still photographing with film?
I'm digital. I still have a heart for film, but I don't really use it much except for the Eclipse because I didn't want to burn out my sensor.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what digital are you using currently?
Well, I just, thanks to Photo Focus, got this amazing Olympus camera. Thank you, Olympus and Photo Focus. I won that recently on Photo Focus 21st anniversary promo. And I've actually even sold a photo from it. So thank you for that.
Wow.
That's awesome.
But
Nice.
I normally shoot Canon. So I have a Canon 5D and I have 5D Mark II, Mark III, and 4. So I'm using all three of those. And then my Olympus that I just got. So
that's nice. So you've got this
yeah.
So the 5D is a powerhouse. That's a powerhouse camera.
Yes,
and then you've got this new compact Olympus that you can literally take anywhere and practically throw it into a pocket.
yes, basically, comparatively. Yeah, I mean, it's way smaller than even, back in the 35 millimeters. I still have pretty much all my old 35 millimeters, and it's heavy, but it's small, and it's weird because I have big hands. So for me, I wasn't going to make the transition to mirrorless, but you kind of edged me down that road.
It's a nice little camera. I had it for 2 months to play with, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm still learning. A lot to learn on it.
So now that you've got a foot in the mirrorless world, what are your thoughts on mirrorless compared to a DSLR?
Well, I haven't had enough experience with it to really say much definitively. I think the size factor is nice, but for me, I like having more real estate to move my hands around because I have large hands. So I'm hopeful that some of the mainline camera companies will make the mirrorless cameras just a little larger, just because I think making them so small almost makes them have to make them more expensive than they necessarily need to be. I don't know.
I think that's a matter of the brand and the sensor size, because if you go with, for example, the even the Canon R, which is their mirrorless, It's bigger than the Olympus mirrorless by nature of it's a bigger sensor.
Certainly.
The Nikon is practically the size of their D850. It's like,
okay.
I mean, it's thinner.
So
it's thinner, but yeah, I mean, it's.
And then it throws off the balance of the camera too when you have a big, your old lenses. So then you're not just getting new camera, you're getting new lenses and new, I did buy the Pro Photo trigger so I can use it with my studio lights. So I do shoot a lot of headshots in studio at my home studio here.
You just foreshadowed a little bit to one of my questions later, but that's okay. We're going to get to this. So what motivates you to continue to create images?
Well, I just love, particularly with portraits, capturing people a little bit of how I kind of say God, I say we're created in the image of God, and that I pull a little piece of that out so people can see it, and they have a renewed appreciation for themselves from the portraiture I do. So I get a lot of people coming in for acting and modeling headshots, or just LinkedIn photos, and they are really surprised what lighting and posing and having somebody who knows what they're doing will make such a difference in an image for them. So so that's fun to do that for people, so they feel good about themselves.
Right.
And that's good. A lot of times the photography experiences we've had in the past could be not so nice. We don't like how we look. We didn't like how the pictures turned out. But if I can have people have a positive experience and feel good about themselves and look good, and I'm not modifying how they look generally, then that's a plus.
Yeah. So you're from the Chicago area, but when looking at your photos, I noticed that some of your work has features that suggest other locations. For example, coconuts suggest maybe Hawaii or another tropical island.
Florida,
So Florida. So I was going to ask, are you often doing destination work, or is most of your work in your area?
I do destination work. So I've been down in Dallas and California. I've also had some real estate clients if I've had to go to, like last year I went to Utah. Actually, last year was my biggest travel year, even though it was COVID. I traveled to New York for a client, Philly for a client, had to go back to New York. I goofed. We all make mistakes, but it was fine. It wasn't a critical goof. And then I also went to Utah, and then I have a consulting client that I shoot for. So I went to Boston twice, DC twice, and Arizona twice as well.
So you did all of that while all this COVID was going on. How did you handle it? I mean, like, what did you do? I mean, obviously people were still flying and the precautions are being taken and all of that. Yeah,
I was fortunate. I upgraded to first class on the airline that I usually fly on. So that had me boarding first and getting off first.
Right.
I'm not like terrified. I made sure my vitamin D levels are high. I take zinc, and I also take the somewhat formerly controversial, now not so controversial, HCQ regimen. So I take hydrochloroquine. So I take it on Mondays. During my heavy travel season this fall, which started in September, later to mid-September, I would do it once every 2 weeks. But when the COVID incidents rose, I did it once every week. So, and I haven't had any ill effects from it, because HCQ, if you don't know, it's what they use for rheumatoid arthritis, and it was doctor prescribed and everything.
Right.
It also helps, stop the replication of the virus. Vitamin D, they say like 84% of people who have severe reactions to COVID are vitamin D deficient.
Right.
I think that's why it affects the minority community so much, because we have darker skin. We don't get the vitamin D as easily. And if you're in a northern climate, you're not getting vitamin D. Like where I was in Virginia, where I'm from, I would have gotten sun possibly I could be outside almost.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So I think when I moved here, I realized vitamin D was very much more important than I ever had a clue. So COVID is reminding people of that. So I wasn't afraid. I mask up when I have clients, and I'm not in their face as much as I would be, but you have to not be afraid to touch them, and you don't want to have them afraid of you. So you have to I think that's a nice thing about having my home-based studio. So people walk into my home, it's a nice home, and it's comfortable. I have an air purifier in there. I have I've Lysol in between clients.
Right.
And I let them know that. It's posted on Google.
Right. Right.
So people know that I take it seriously, but I'm not afraid.
Right.
So I'm not going to live in fear.
And have you been traveling lately, still ongoing, or is that sort of
Finished
paused?
up in just before Christmas. So I think I had a shoot, or I had a client consulting gig. So it is, and they were in a medical setting. I can't describe what it is because it's under FDA approval and stuff, and it's confidential. But I took it seriously. So I was in doctor's offices. So I, had to wear a mask, sometimes K95. One time I had to actually shoot, and I had to put a visor on as well. So it's for medical imagery. So.
That would be interesting to shoot with a visor, I would think. I mean,
yeah, and I bought one from WeatherTech, which is a local
right.
I bought a set just in case I have some clients that I may go on location. I shoot on location for some doctors around Illinois. And if they are a little concerned, I figured it might be a good thing to have in my kit in case people
Right.
So I'm doing all the precautions, but I'm not going to be afraid. I'm I'm relatively healthy. I mean, I take, good care of myself, pretty good care. Of course I could use more exercise and less sweets.
Can't we all?
But we all.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So when you use the shield, were you relying on the live view, or did you really hold it up and try to look through the viewfinder?
It wasn't a critical focus situation because it was the medical imagery camera had like dots you had to line up, and so once you were in, the camera kind of did most of the work. You didn't have to worry about it. So it wasn't. But I haven't tried it put the visor on and tried to shoot.
I would have a hard time with that.
Yeah,
it would be like, do you put it underneath the visor? Like,
yeah, I don't know. You just have to. We're all figuring this stuff out.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Times, but it is kind of ironic that I did travel more. I got elite status on my airline for this next year coming because of all the flying I did last year.
It's great though that you were able to keep busy with so many people not being able.
I am really blessed, and I have to attribute that to marketing. I think when the shutdown started approaching, I said, what am I going to do? Set myself apart from others. This is a good time to go back to my clients. I had hired somebody to go back and contact my former clients and get that I knew would give me 5-star reviews and get them, and got them posted on LinkedIn. I got them posted on Google, and it made a huge difference in my business. So I still awesome. I had 2 headshot shoots yesterday.
That's awesome.
So, some people don't get that in a week,
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So, and I had it in a day. So
which type of photography do you enjoy more? The models, the commercial, the headshot, the family, or more personal projects? Which is your favorite to do?
I like doing headshots, but I also enjoy the creative aspects of doing the lifestyle commercial photography. But I even like the serenity of going, like when I flew up to New York and I had to take pictures of this bakery for my client. And that came through a marketing guy I used. He contacted people on my behalf and got that gig. And so what was interesting is this going into a restaurant and capturing the aesthetics of what my client did to create the chain restaurant for their client. It's just something about, I don't know. I love creating. I think that's just it. But the nice thing about doing the lifestyle is that you get to interact with the models. And for some reason, I noticed early on that the models tend to respond well to me. I think oftentimes it's such a male dominated field that they are relaxed when there's a woman that they know that is married and can be kind of motherly, but it's not too old, and, kind of makes them feel at ease.
Right.
So
nice. Yeah,
they got the same parts they do. And, so. Yeah. So they're not worried that you're trying to hit on them and all that.
Right. Exactly. No, it's been a big issue over the years, and it's.
Yeah, I would be sure. And particularly in the Me Too era.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So just a reminder for everybody who's watching live, both in the webinar and on YouTube, Please, you can ask questions to Martika in the Q&A section or in the live chat. Lori is there monitoring. I'm peeking over every chance I get. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and we'll be sure to get to your questions, throughout the show. So, and also a reminder that this is a photo focus show. So if you want a boatload of free education and some entertaining content as well, then check out photofocus.com. There's a lot going on every day, all day, 7 days a week. So, and Lori is now an editor over at Photo Focus.
Yay. And the community manager for our new community. So I just put the links to the community in the chats on YouTube and in the video here. So if people want to join our new Photo Focus community, they can do that too.
Yeah. And less stuff on Facebook and more stuff.
Yeah, it's nice because
Facebook.
you don't have the Facebook stuff, and there's things that you can do in that community that you can't do on Facebook or other social media sites. So we're just getting started and things are rolling. There's a weekly challenge going on right now, every week so far, and there's different groups for different genres of photography. And it's just kind of all about helping and learning from each other.
Great. So Martika, we've kind of touched on this here and there. You've brought this up, I think, twice already, but I'm going to change the wording a bit. So some of your, and this is what I already noticed. This isn't because, we're just meeting for the first time. So this is what I noticed when I was browsing your photos. Some of your commercial and portrait work are very styled for a pristine and specific look. So I was wondering if you do all the styling for every session, or if you work with somebody who helps you out with the styling.
Yeah, generally we have a stylist that we hire to do the styling. I have done some work where I have styled it myself, where I went out and got the outfits and brought them and hired a stylist and had them, outfit the people as I was trying to run the shoot. And that's a lot. So I recommend, finding a good stylist in your area that you can work with. So, and it doesn't have to be like perfect. I mean, if you have a vision for what your, a Pinterest board or whatever, for what the look you're trying to portray with your work, then that's good. But you can have a stylist that implements that for you, because it's a bit much to manage all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've already got other things to worry about, like lighting and posing and all that fun stuff.
Editing later.
Editing. Yeah. All right, so let's dive into this, because the first one that we're going to be showing, this first photo, actually all three, I would say, are pristinely styled, to go with the wording that I used. So let's see, here we go. Let me know when you see your photo.
Yes,
okay.
That one's here in Chicago at Aaron Moore Farm. So I had a vision of a polo themed fashion shoot. And that's what came to me. Literally, I was driving down the street in Westmont, and that's what came into my head. And I just love it's just a gorgeous setting. And we had polo players, we had the models, we had the clothing. It just all came together. It was perfect.
Nice. So what sort of lighting did you use for this? Now, you mentioned
this is natural. Yeah, so we'll use reflectors. Oftentimes I have an 8x8 Westcott Scrim Gym Cine, which will just bring in wonderful light. But this is kind of towards the golden hour, so we didn't really need to do much with the lighting here, so which is nice. So
it definitely looks. It definitely looks like, that you can tell that you sort of added some light onto them, because obviously the sky is so white behind them that you had to compensate. But they definitely pop off there, so that's why it has that look of artificial. But in theory, you could say that reflectors is still artificial because that light wasn't there originally.
That's true.
Cool. I love this photo. I even like the the natural sort of resting on his shoulder look.
Yes.
At first I'm like, okay, so he's a polo player and that's the spouse, right? So they're just getting cuddly. That's my take on it, at least on that point of view.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. So did you have to remove anything from the Yeah, there's definitely a story.
Yeah.
Did you have to remove anything from the sky or the field over here?
No, that was it. I didn't really,
Nice.
I don't remember cropping, cutting anything out. It's been a while. So, but yeah.
That's good.
Sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah. Because that could be a complete time suck if you've got to remove a whole bunch of stuff.
We have a question.
Sure.
Cool.
Someone wants to know what's one posing tip you can give to people who are terrible at posing.
Well, I know there's some free apps you can get for posing. You just have to do it. You have to practice it. And of course, with professional models, they know how to direct. You kind of coach them along. They're a lot easier to deal with than plain folk. Somebody off of the street not look like this, just, it's not going to generally happen. I mean, and as you grow with your craft, you get better at posing people. So, I mean, I'm much better at posing clients in my studio now than I did. I remember the first time I did a shoot, I didn't know what the crap I was doing with lights and trying to do a headshot for somebody, but I've learned so much more just from doing it thousands of times.
Right.
Yeah. There is a really good app for anybody who really wants to get into posing with prompts where you don't really think about the pose as much as just how to get somebody naturally into position. There's an app called Unscripted that is really good that I recommend. So it's a cool one. It's definitely for iOS. I don't know if it's for Android yet, but okay. Did you have something else to say before we move on to the next photo?
No, I think that's good.
Cool. All right. So this one, first of all, there's that subtle lens flare.
Yes, solar flare. Gotta love it.
Yep. I love that. I love that flare. It's perfectly placed. Very natural, laughter going on.
Yeah.
Did you say something funny? Do you have them say something funny to each other, or?
Well, these are professional models down in Dallas, and they were just happy to be creating, I think, that day. And sometimes you get really blessed with some awesome models if you do your casting properly. And so these models just had a good natural interaction. I don't know, they may have known each other from the same agency. So sometimes there's that rapport that you naturally get because models know each other and they've worked together before. But we had the drum there, and she had another kind of tambourine kind of thing that she had the things in her hands for. So they were kind of just playing along with that, and you get the moment. It's a moment that tells a story. It's just kind of timing and coaching.
And was this for a personal project, or was this a commercial
it was a
client?
personal project. Yeah, so it was down in Dallas, and so I found this awesome location that had all kinds of really neat things on. It had a barn, it had an Airstream trailer, which I'd always wanted to shoot around one of those, and so it was just like a covered bridge. It was awesome. It was just
cool.
Yeah, I was really fortunate that I found this location. So
cool.
So it worked out really great.
Awesome. Lori, you have anything you want to ask about this photo?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Right, cool.
And sometimes,
by the way,
if there's a certain look like you're going for, oftentimes I shoot bohemian style. So then I keep things in my repertoire. Like I buy jewelry and stuff that I'll take to the shoots because I want a look and I want to add to what's going on. So
right.
Don't be afraid to interpret the scene the way you want it and bring in your own props.
Well, because you're the creator. You're the one who you already know in your head what you want. So, you're the one who dictates, that way you get the outcome that you had in your head.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to overbuy clothing just to make sure, because your stylist, sometimes stylists don't have a lot of money. So they go out and they'll buy clothes on their credit card, and then, they'll use it. This is a normal thing that's done.
And return them.
Damage, you have to pay for it.
Right.
But they, the models know to wear it with care and not get it dirty and everything. So, but you just have to know, sometimes you have to go over and above, beyond. Yeah.
I also want to point out that as everybody who has seen in these two photos, your colors are really beautiful. They're very vibrant and very natural. So you can tell the skin tones are very accurate. I mean, obviously I wasn't there for the session, but you can tell. So great job with the colors on
you.
all of your work.
Thank you.
So, all right, this one. So my guess is because of the clothing, it's probably from a similar trip.
Yeah, it was. It was the day after the first one, and it was at an airport in Dallas. I found this guy who had a vintage. That's just really so you never know how things happen, but sometimes it just happens. And he had this vintage bubble bus. So it's one of the VW buses, and it had the bubble windows, and those are really rare. So it was like 150,000 bubble bus. He loaned it to me. He happened to be also have a airplane business. So he let us, the airport there let us shoot with those old vintage planes in it. So, and it just all came together. And then we found this guy with this amazing yellow plane. So that we shot in front of his stall at the airport. So it just worked out tremendously.
But that's because you build relationships with people pretty naturally, I'm assuming.
Yes, I do. I've been able to get people to do things that I wouldn't think that they would want to do. But I'm a lobbyist, truthfully, so I'm good at convincing people to do things they don't want to do. And I lobbied without money. So I lobbied with logic, which is a lost art these days. But I learned how to get people to do things that I wouldn't think they would do.
So your career in as a lobbyist has helped you in your photography business.
Definitely.
By being able to talk to people and talk them into doing things, possibly, That's awesome.
It is good. It is good.
Were you able to talk your way into getting a ride on that yellow airplane in the background?
I did not, but I would imagine if I could get in touch with that guy, he would be happy to take me out there. So it only it's got a really small tank, so it only goes like a short distance because it's vintage.
Very cool.
Right. So. Was this an actual small airport, or was this an airplane museum?
Outside of like Fort Worth, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's a great location. I love that she's got binoculars in her hand too, because you're around planes. You're not there to get on a plane. You might as well have something like binoculars so you can see them in the sky.
That's right. Right.
Yeah. Cool. By the way, did you know that random tip I just learned from a Wayne's World reunion? Do you know that in the Wayne's World when the Wayne and Garth were at the airport and watching the planes go over, they actually used to do that at the Toronto airport in real life, and they just incorporated their real life into Wayne's World.
Oh, that's interesting. I did that in Hawaii back in the 80s. You could go jet blasting.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore.
I would imagine
either.
I can't imagine why.
But
that was fun.
Yeah, so again, you can tell the colors are very, very accurate, very vibrant again. And were all three of these natural light or with reflectors, or did you use no artificial at all?
I don't think there's any strobing in either of these.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So most of your interior work, like for example, the medical one that you were talking about, that would be, your pro photo strobes and potentially some other stuff.
It's a medical specific camera setup that they use, but so they use flashes, and I'm just there to make sure that it captures everything properly.
Awesome. All right, let's stop.
And not to creep out the ladies.
So Lori, unless you have any questions, or if there's any questions in there, I only have one question left.
I have no
questions.
No, because then the questions I had have been answered already. So
cool. All right. So then my last question for you, Martika, is if you can share a tip for photographers about a technique or equipment or anything that everybody can walk away with some sort of action that they might want to take.
Yeah, I'm thinking about my mentor, and he always says scrim and bounce, scrim and bounce. Basically, scrimming is when you take like a Westcott Cine and you filter the light so the light isn't so harsh. So say it's noon and you've got this deadline to get this shot. It's high noon, it's torrid lighting. What do? You scrim it. You filter the light. So you can shoot almost any time of the day. if you have the right equipment. So it doesn't have to be expensive. You can rent scrims and bounces, and usually in larger metropolitan areas, or you can just buy a set. I'd say invest in it. You'd be surprised what you can get with natural light. I came from film photography, and I always had to think about stopping light. I came as a self-taught film photographer, stopping light with flash. But since I learned to scrim and bounce, it's changed my thinking tremendously. So.
Yeah. And I mean, you just got to keep in mind that you either need, if you're doing it outdoors, of course, you're going to need either, extra bodies to hold it.
Or C-stands and sandbags.
Or C-stands and sandbags, weights, things so that it doesn't become a sail and take somebody out.
Yes.
But yeah, that's really handy. You know what I've also seen people do is the pop-up canopies that you get for a party or whatever. You just get a white one with no logo, and now you've got this big scrim basically that is going to diffuse everything under it. And I've seen a lot of headshot photographers do outdoor headshots under one of those.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, because then you could just get so for example, Easy Up. That's the one brand that I use. They make sandbags that actually clip right onto the legs, and you just fill them with sand, and it's not going anywhere. So
that's awesome.
I think you're the first person in 7 episodes to share a tip sort of on that subject. So that's pretty good.
Oh, good. That's awesome. I don't want to be just like everybody else.
So thank you, Martika, for joining us today. We appreciate you hopping on and sharing your work and some of your insights and what you have going on. Where can everybody learn more about you and see your work?
Sure. And I'm always happy to help other photographers. I feel like we have to help each other. It's not a competition. MartikaGartman.com. It's Martika, Gartman, GARTMAN.com. And my regular everybody's site is martikaphotography.com. So
awesome.
Feel free to reach out.
Yeah. And we'll be sure to link to that. Right, Lori, we'll link that.
I just put it in the chats.
Awesome. So everybody have a great rest of the week. Martika, have a great rest of the week.
Thank you so much and enjoy your new Olympus camera.
Oh, I'm definitely appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
guys.
thank you.
Olympus.
Have a good one.